So welcome back, everybody, to Flyneau Reads 49 Hours by ScribeOfRhapsody. Today we're on Chapter 13, Hour 25.2 of 49. My name's Amanda.
And I'm Chris.
Let's get started. To say the young prince looked surprised at her words was an understatement. He definitely hadn't expected them to actually take his deal, but enough was enough. Their lives might be in jeopardy, but there was only so much one could justify what they were doing until it wasn't even worth it anymore. Keeping Ignis captive had been bad enough, but the prince, he was what, 16, 17? And he clearly didn't have Ignis's resilience. As for Loki, Arnea wasn't fond of how he was taking the news. He looked pissed, that was for sure. But there was a look of panic. Even with Biggs holding a gun to his head, his own gun was still pointed at the prince. Oh, but sorry, but there was a lack of panic.
Calyx. We're going to say Calyx. Simply because
Calyx.
Calyx. Mr. Calyx.
Loki said, and Arnea knew for a fact they'd never told him Biggs' last name. Loki was smirking as he glanced over his shoulder.
Your mother's getting rather advanced in years, isn't she? I doubt anyone would be terribly surprised were she to pass in the coming days.
The blood drained from Biggs' face.
The bugger.
How the hell had Loki got... What?
I said the bugger, and that's putting it politely.
Oh, I know. How the hell had Loki gotten information on Biggs' family, and why was he just using it now? Unless he saw that his other threats were starting not to work and used that damn phone of his to gather more dirt on them. She should have sent that phone to join its friend wherever Ignis had sent it. Phone graveyard.
Also known as high school. Or rather, the confiscated desk in the teacher's drawer.
Yeah.
I said that backward. Anyway, Cal Creed.
See, this is one I'm unsure of, because I don't know if it's a hard C or a soft C. I think it's a soft C, so go with Kinsaid.
Mr. Kinsaid. It would certainly be a shame if something were to happen to that lovely blonde in the bar you frequent. Bartending can be such a hazardous occupation for a young woman.
Double bastard. Damn it, how much did the Empire have on them? She hadn't even known Wedge was interested in someone. Then again, he was the most private of the three of them. Biggs probably knew something about it, but what really mattered was that the Empire knew. Arnea tightened her grip on her lance, staring Loki down. What, got nothing on me? He couldn't. There was nothing he could have on her. The only people she cared about were here. Ignis is one of them!
Yep. How about you want to bet either the prince or Fronto is going to be best man?
Haha. Loki was still smirking.
I don't need to. So long as I have them, I have you.
Damn him. She shouldn't have let him realize that, but they were a unit. She'd never walk away with them trapped like this.
You bloody monster!
Biggs slowly lowered his weapon, his expression one of pure guilt and misery.
I'm sorry, Ignis.
Wedge followed suit, his jaw tense as he lowered his own weapon. No surprise, they could have taken a stranger off the road and it would have had the same effect. He wouldn't let innocents die on his account. He, like Arnea and Biggs, had only gone along with this thus far out of care for them. How had they become each other's weakness? They were supposed to be a team that was stronger together. The pure arrogance on Loki's face was a very tempting target for her fist.
Highland, if you would be so kind to retrieve the boy.
Bastard, she'd tell him that, but it would only boost his ego by letting him know he got to her.
One second. His Majesty can send an escort to retrieve your loved ones. That's not the right voice.
It's close enough.
Yeah.
Ignis piped up again, finally.
In Niflheim.
Loki snorted.
You're losing this war, Lucian. You'll never get them in time, even if you found them, and your glaives can't even find us in your own city. Not going to be a problem for long.
The prince said, and there was a small grin on his face.
Thanks for stalling for me. Gave my dad enough time to trace the call.
He held up a phone with his injured, shaking arm. Rivulets of his blood had run across the screen, but there was still very much of a connected call showing. The shot Loki fired was so sudden, Aranea almost jumped. The prince shifted, a blue ghost image of his immediate, in his immediate wake, as he barely phased through the bullet. A knife replaced the sword in his right hand, and Loki hissed as the weapon connected with his own, sending his gun clattering to the ground. If Ignis had been standing any closer to Biggs and not Loki, he would have been fine, but as things were, he was in Loki's arm range, and Loki yanked him into a hold, pressing his own knife to Ignis's throat before any of them could do anything. The prince froze, another dagger in his hand that he'd been about to throw.
Stand down, your highness.
Loki snarled.
Not.
Ignis' tone was composed yet tight as he looked at the prince.
Get out of here.
He flinched subtly as Loki's knife pressed into his neck.
Oh, I really think you should stay.
Loki yanked Ignis' head back by his hair, exposing his throat further.
That is, if you don't want your glaives to find your young advisor in a less than ideal condition.
The prince didn't move an inch, and Aranea bent her knees slightly, ready to pounce if she needed to. Gotta protect that future husband!
The question is she pouncing on the prince or Loki?
That will depend on the situation, I guess.
Drop the dagger.
Loki ordered.
If he gets you, he will have no need for me anyway.
Ignis's teeth were gritted as a thin trickle of blood spread from the knife pressed on his skin. The kid's eyes were wide, flickering around wildly as if he could find another option.
If I come with you, I want your word that he won't be hurt. He won't hurt him. Not. My dad tells him more than me anyway. You don't want to lose that.
For the love of, this was a disaster. The kid was playing with fire, obviously trying to buy time, but at what cost? Things would only be worse if Loki had two hostages, and that was without one of them being the prince.
Not for Astral's sake. My life isn't worth yours.
The entire time they'd been dragging Ignis around, he never seemed this panicked, and Aranea knew it wasn't the blade bringing out that side of him now.
The hell it isn't!
The prince snapped, and then his shoulders sagged.
My cooperation for his life. That's my deal. No! It's my choice, Iggy.
The prince muttered softly.
Deal.
Loki pulled his knife away from Ignis's throat, holding it at a fair distance. The prince gave him a nod and released his dagger, letting it dissolve into small particles of light before he tapped the red button on the screen of his phone and tossed it off to the side. Not that it mattered. The king would have their location already.
Highwind?
Loki shoved Ignis back at Biggs. Shoved Ignis back at Biggs, who steadied him so he didn't fall over.
Get the boy secured, quickly. The blade will be here any moment.
Aranea looked away from Ignis's desperate expression. Great, she'd thought things had gone to hell before. The chances of any of them surviving this were dwindling rapidly. She wasn't a parent herself, but somehow she didn't think the King of Lucius was going to take too kindly to his son being shot and taken captive. What?
Nothing, this is just going to be amusing for me.
Yep. The air in the room was horrifically quiet. Gladio was not an easy man to intimidate, but the look on the king's face as the words call ended flashed on the screen in his hand. That was darker than any he'd seen from the usually benevolent man. Inwardly, Gladio was screaming at his own idiocy. Of course Noct hadn't been asleep that long. How had he not seen through his and Prompto's text antics? They were both horrible liars. Had he even talked on the phone to Prompto, he would have known instantly something was up. But apparently Noct was really good at sounding like his best friend when it came to texting, and now Noct was in the hands of the same maniacs as Ignis. If they reached the edge of the city, it wasn't just them they'd lose. With the information they had, game over. The war was lost. The line of Lucius would end. Damn it, Noct. Why couldn't he just listen for once? He had a shield for a reason. Gladio was brought back to the terrifying sight of his king's current expression as the phone was set on the table. Gladio knew exactly what he was thinking about above all, and it wasn't the war or even Lucius itself.
Dad, I'm hurt. I don't know how bad, but...
Noctis always complained about things hurting in training, but he was a drama queen when it came to sparring injuries. But that, 6, what had happened to him? There was a tremble of rage in the king's voice as he spoke.
Every glaive, every god, converge on the location now. Serious.
Claris.
Okay, I need to restart this. Every glaive, every god, converge on the location. Callis, Gladio, come with me. We're meeting them.
Did you say Claris?
I don't know.
It's Claris.
Thank you. I apologize. I'm restarting this because I can't interrupt this.
Just start from now.
Now, Claris?
Yes, Claris.
Now, Claris. Gladio, come with me. We're meeting them there.
Gladio's father wordlessly fell into step with his king as they headed down the hall. It had been difficult to understand the full scope of the conversation since they couldn't hear most of what was being said by the Imperial, but the result had been clear. Noct had traded himself to buy time for Ignis and get the glaive closer. Gladio clenched his fists as he followed his father and his king to the elevator. That bastard was going to regret ever getting near them, and then he was going to kill Noct and Prompto both for this crap. We called it.
Yep.
Damn it, he couldn't even think of that as a joke right now. He just wanted Noct and Ignis back safe.
Safe so he can throttle them.
Yeah.
It's like, Gladio, we got them back safe. I don't care. I'm strangling them for this stupidity.
Yeah.
No faster.
Loki hissed, gesturing wildly with his arm before looking at his phone again. Looked like he was getting more frantic by the minute. Noctis almost grinned, but a sudden flare from his arm made him bite his lip to stifle a whimper instead. It was still bleeding.
I think it's supposed to be stifle.
No, stifle, same word.
One just sounds like it involves the nose.
Oh, you mean sniffle.
I know. I can't even say it how you said it.
Stifle?
Stiffle. Stiffle sounds like sniffle.
Well, yeah, but stifle sounds like trifle. Lots of words sound like each other. It's English.
2, 2, and 2. There, and there. Were and were.
See, those are easy sound-alikes. You gotta find more difficult sound-alikes. Anyway, side quest. The only effort that had been made to tend to his wound was the small tourniquet the lady mercenary had tied around his upper bicep. Bicep. I can't say bicep. And while he was glad he had that, it wasn't helping him walk straighter. Noctis really regretted the noise making its way out of him, because Ignis honed in on it like a wild animal spotting prey, only with a lot more concern.
I'm fine.
Noctis muttered. Yeah, Ignis was so not buying that. There was a gentle squeeze on his good shoulder from the lady mercenary, who had been the one shoving him along. Hang in there, kid. Noctis would have scowled at being called a kid, but he didn't really want to anger the woman since she'd at least been nice enough to help him with his arm and tied his hands in front instead of in the back like Ignis had. It would be good to know that if he fell, it wouldn't be totally flat on his face. He was so going to fall at this pace.
Hurry up!
Loki snapped again, sharply turning a corner into another alley.
This way.
Noctis and Ignis both staggered at the sudden change of direction, but thankfully their guards helped them stay upright.
Kincaid?
Loki beckoned him over as he tried to lift a sewer cover. Seriously? Like this wasn't bad enough. The white-shirted mercenary that was hanging on to Ignis groaned.
Not again.
Oh, was this how they managed to get so far? Yeah, okay. He was so going to have his dad do something about securing the sewers when this was over. When this was over, Knox swallowed. Every other miserable thing in his life, school, his part-time job, the endless lectures, he'd always had the consolation that it would be over soon and he'd get to go back to his apartment and chill with Prompto or something. He had no guarantee that he'd be going home this time. Absolutely everything about his plan could go wrong. Hell, it was barely even a plan. It was a spur-of-the-moment keep Agnes alive decision.
I'm afraid our options are limited.
Loki hissed back.
Now shut up and help if you want your mother to live.
Douchebag.
That's putting it politely. I was thinking of something more... less appropriate for YouTube.
Yeah, gotta keep it YouTube appropriate. Jeez, he couldn't be mad at these mercenaries. The Imperial was a manipulative asshole. End. So that was chapter 13. Opinions?
Well, not called it. It took him meeting over the course of 2 hours, 0.2 hours, to actually figure out that Loki was an asshole.
Yep. Oh yeah, it takes no time to realize Loki's an asshole. What I hate is the more I learn about Loki, I'm like, okay, he's an asshole, but he has talent, so he's a talented asshole.
Which makes him more of an asshole, to be honest.
Yeah, I know.
It's like, he has all that talent, and he could be putting it to good constructive use, which he kinda is, but he's doing it in a very asshole manner.
Yeah, I know. I mean, he did shoot Knox from from far away without even a clear target and successfully hit the target.
He's lucky he didn't aim a little bit to the... What shoulder did he get shot in?
I don't remember, but a little bit in the wrong direction.
And it would have gone straight through his heart.
Yup.
That song popped in my head again.
No breaking into song this time.
Fair enough. Anyways,
that was chapter 13 of Scribe of Rhapsody's 49 Hours. We'll see you all in the next chapter.
hope you enjoyed.